Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about the importance of communication and building connections with others. Goodness, isn't that a mouthful? So, thankfully, I have Terry here, a returning guest, because oh my goodness, I really enjoyed the first time he was on my show. That I had to like, hey, come on back and let's me prick your brain again. So now he's here. And this is the topic that we are really going to break down and think about. So let's really break this down then, right? So when you hear the words communication, what does that alone make you think about?
Well, first of all, Mitzi, thanks for having me back. I'm really looking forward to this again. Yeah, communication is basically, I think another word for it is connection. Are you saying something that the other person is hearing? And one of the jobs I've had in my life is I was a SWAT hostage negotiator with the Cincinnati Police Department. And I remember when I started that role, they gave us a formula, and I'll give this to your audience. And it has to do with how we as human beings communicate with each other. And that formula was 738-55. So 7% of how we communicate a message are the words that we use. And think how many times in your life you've been like, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that, or oh, I wish I would have said that differently. That's only 7% of how that message comes across. 38% is the tone of voice that you use. Are you really excited? You can't wait to tell the person like you're talking like this? Or are you kind of the Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? You're down and depressed and everything's terrible. The tone of voice is 38%. But then 55%, so more than half of how that message comes across is our body language and our facial expressions. And the reason they gave us that formula was because if somebody was barricaded with a gun in a room, we were not in the room with that person. That would have not have been safe for us.
Exactly.
So we had to understand, we basically didn't have the luxury of saying something to somebody and see them kind of roll their eyes and be like, oh, I can't believe Terry said that to me. What an idiot he is. So we had to get good at figuring out what was going on based on what people were saying, but also what they weren't saying and how they were saying it. Sorry, long answer to your question.
No, it's a great answer because people don't realize how much we actually do communicate non-verbally. You know what I mean? So to put that equation out there, that really helps us think about like, oh, just my body language alone determines if people are going to receive what I'm going to say. And people don't realize that like sometimes people won't listen to somebody or just talk to them just by how they look. They automatically will shut them down. Salespeople do it all the time. You're supposed to watch and learn and look and observe and see which ones are going to receive it. You know what I mean? So it's like that already alone just helps people realize like, okay, if you don't get it right with the miscommunication, the miswords, the stumbling, the stutter, you know what I mean? Those little things that are really that 7%, that other core piece is very important because that tone, the word choice, oh yes, that does have a big impact. So I guess it leads to my next question then. Let's break this down with the building connections with other people. What does that make you think about?
It makes me, what it makes me think about is I've got something I would like to communicate with you. How do I go about doing that? And that's a lot of times going to depend on how receptive you are to listening to what I have to say. And one of the things we used to always say was a yes. And this is true. This is not just true in hostage negotiations. This is true in anything. And I'll give you an example in a minute. A yes without a how is a no. So we used to have this person call constantly. We still have a landline, my wife and I, and they would call, and they're always trying to sell siding or something like that. And you get to a point, at least I did. I was so frustrated that it was like, okay, yeah, sure, fine. But I just said yes to them. But there's no how with that. There's no, okay, get your calendar out and let's look at what time you can come out and give me an estimate, or when are you going to, your crew out to do the work, or there's nothing there. It's a yes because I'm frustrated, but there's no how with it. So in reality, I just said yes, but what I really said was no. No, I'm not going to do it. I appeased you, but at the same time, I didn't want to hear the message. So I just said yes to get you off my back. How many times do we do that to people? Yeah, sure, whatever. But if you don't,
Yeah.
if there's not a how with it, you were negotiating a deal. Okay, we've negotiated. I've said yes. All right, I'm going to have my purchasing manager call your purchasing manager. I'm going to have my marketing person call your marketing person. Whatever. I'm going to have your operations person call my operations person. There's got to be a how. There's got to be a way to take that yes, turn it into action. If there's no action with it, then even though I said yeah, I've already said no.
Yeah, it makes sense because you have there people like direction, people like to be guided, and especially those individuals that okay, you could tell me yes, but I need you to finish it all the way. Those
Right.
are the individuals like we don't realize there's more of those than just the okay, yes, I'll get back to you, we'll finish it up, and we'll follow up on that. And there's not a lot of people who follow up. You know what I mean? It's about like right now and in the moment. So that is truly something for us to really think about. So I guess to wrap it all up, why is it important? Why to put it all together, the whole phrase, what does the whole phrase make you think about when you think about the importance of communication, building connections with others?
I'll say one word, and any good relationship, any
Hmm.
connection with another person is based on one word, and that word is trust. If I don't trust you, if a parent child, if a husband wife, if a boss subordinate, if we don't trust each other, it's not a good relationship. It's a toxic relationship. And I think, especially today in our political climate, we're just screaming at each other. You're screaming at me, I'm screaming at you. And when we're doing that, we're not hearing what's going on. And one of the things we used to do, because a lot of times we would get on scene as negotiators, I have no idea why we're here. What precipitated this person to do what they did? And so we would do what was called tactical empathy. I think you can get rid of the word tactical and just talk about empathy. If I was talking to you, Mitzi, it would be like, Mitzi, help me to understand what's going on, or help me to understand where you're coming from. The important word there is understand. If you were a homicide suspect that just murdered three people, I wasn't going to agree with you. But if
Mhm.
I can understand where you're coming from and you can understand where I'm coming from, that's the basis of trust. And trust
Yeah.
for me led me to a point where I could get that person out safely. So communicate, trust, get the person to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, I think that just empathy is something that we all lack. And I think that is the reason why we lack communication when we are just interacting with each other. I mean, you can go to the mall, you can go to the store, you can just order a coffee online, or it's not just anything that you have to do with interacting with other people. You kind of have to have empathy because there's a sense of peace, a sense of safety, a sense of compassion that is needed around us because when there's lack of that, people put their defenses up. People are ready to survival mode, and people are always in survival mode, always in survival, and it's not safe for our well-being nor anybody else's around us. So to bring back empathy into our communication and how we embody ourselves, I think is a great way. And I'm glad that we are talking about this because it is something that people don't really consider when they think about communication is empathy. They wouldn't think about that. They usually always use the word effective communication. You know what I mean? And that's the end of it. So I guess leading up to my next question, what does effective communication, I mean, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
It means getting the person to do what you want to do in a safe way. And let me go
Mhm.
back to when I was talking about a yes without a no, or yes without a how as a no.
Mhm.
When we say yes to somebody, to something, it makes us vulnerable. It's like, oh my gosh, I just committed to something. Not
Yeah.
sure if I feel good about that. I don't know. I'm still trying to process, figure it out. So if you're negotiating with somebody, if you're trying to ask somebody out on a date, let me make this suggestion because people feel much more comfortable. So ask the question, not looking for a yes, but looking for a no. Mitzi, would would it be okay if I suggested something that we could do in terms of communication? Because now I'm at oh, no, no, Terry, that would be fine. Or is this a good time? or is this not a good time to talk on the phone? Are you not available right now? Or so, and I kind of messed up that first part, and I apologize. So you want your question to elicit a no answer for the person. Is now not a good time? No, today now's good. Now's good. I got plenty of time. Or no, not now's not a good time. And what you will do is you will follow up with that and say, but hey, I've got a meeting, but in 2 hours I've got some time. Can we get together then? Sure, because no makes us feel safe. Yes makes us feel we've committed to something. And especially if it's something new or we're making a new deal with somebody, we're not so sure if this is the right thing to do. So get people to commit by saying no instead of getting them to commit by saying yes.
Right? Reverse psychology. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Let them perceive that they are still in control, that
Right.
they still have their say, their dignity, their pride, you know what I mean? But I think it's important that where you're leading up to is just being heard, allowing everybody to be heard. You know, even if you're working in a group, I mean, because working in a group or dealing with multiple people at once, that can become overwhelming, but you can still put all of what you just said into a group setting as well. In any setting, you could put it into your own family setting. You know
Right.
what I mean? If I think it's anywhere that you lack communication, you can put that formula in place and then utilize it to your best advantage and then tweak it accordingly to whoever that you need or the situation that it is. And I know you said that trust and empathy was the two factors that are lost in communication. So, what are some other misconceptions when it comes to communication and connecting with others?
So one of the things that we used to do when we would talk to somebody is we would ask how and what questions. We would
Okay.
stay away from why questions because think about when you were growing up. You would do something goofy as a kid, and what would your parents do? Be like, "Why did you do that?" And you're like, "Oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I messed up." Well,
Yeah.
taking that with you into adulthood. So if I said to you, "Well, Mitzi, why did you wear that top today?" Would you, "Oh, wait a minute, does Terry not like the top that I'm wearing today?" I
Mm.
can get to the same answer by saying, "Mitzi, what made you decide to wear that top today?" That's a little less intrusive of a question. I'm not accusing you. Why questions sound accusatory? How and
Yeah.
what questions land a little bit softer. The other thing I would tell you is, and this is very important for us as negotiators, is mirror the person's emotion. If somebody was yelling and screaming and ranting and raving, say about their mother, for example, and I made a comment that said, "You seem like you're a little upset about your mother." No, I totally missed what that person just said. It's like, "No, you are pissed at your mother." Yes, I'm pissed at my mother. And Terry gets me because I
Mhm.
just mirrored or parroted back to them what their emotion was. And again, matching that emotion
Mhm.
leads to trust. Terry gets me. He understands me. So mirror their emotion. And the last thing I'll give you is this. If somebody says something to you that's just out of bounds, something that you're like, what? What? What did you say to me?
Yeah.
A way to take back the power on your end is whatever they say, just look at them and say, "It seems like you have a reason for saying that." And then go silent.
Mm.
Say nothing because you just put the ball back in their court. And now they're either going to have to say something to justify what they said, or other people are looking at them like, "Ooh, yeah, yeah, that probably wasn't a good thing for you to say." And silence, and this is so key, silence, I'll talk your ear off if you let me, but silence is something we use all the time. We would mirror an emotion back, we would mirror something they said back, and then we would go silent because we don't
Mm.
like silence in a conversation. We will fill that void. And that's what we wanted as negotiators, you to burn off that emotional energy by talking about what was going on. So asking a question or being curious and then going silent was something we used very effectively.
So I guess how do you keep yourself from being an effective communicator and implementing trust and implementing empathy from manipulating? Because manipulating kind of has those similar tactics of silence and you know what I mean, persuasion. So how do you where's that line drawn when it comes to that?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things is negotiators we did is we never lied to people. And we would even sometimes tell people, hey, look, if you ever think that I'm trying to get something over on you or that I'm
Yeah.
being disingenuous and so I want you to call me out on it. I want you to
Mhm.
say that and we'll talk about it. And that's important in any kind of relationship. You know, if you're talking to somebody, you're in a really deep conversation and it's something personal and it's like, look, I want you to trust me. So if you ever
Mhm.
think that I'm being manipulative. If you ever think I'm doing something like that, call me out on it. And the
Yeah.
reason we never lied to people, and people would say to us all the time, hey, I'll put the gun down or I'll let the hostages go, but you've got to promise me I'm not going to go to jail. And we would have to say, really? We've been talking for 5 hours. We've been honest with each other. And now you want me to lie to you? How can
Right?
I don't want to lie to you. When you get out, when you come out, you are going to go to jail. And then we would try to deflect the conversation to something more productive or more positive. I mean, one,
Yeah.
I'm not a good liar. And if you lie, you got to remember what the lie was and you got to carry that through. So
Yeah.
just be honest with the person. Be like, look, if you think I'm pulling one over on you, I want you to call me on it. And that
Yeah.
allows that person to, and again, that even sounds manipulative in a way, but it's not. It's just being honest. I don't want to
Yeah.
have a surface conversation with you.
Exactly.
I want to have a deep conversation with you. I want to say, Mitzi, in 20 years, I want you and I to be jumping on podcasts and talking about different things. And because what are we doing? We're building a relationship,
Yeah.
not just having a conversation. And I think that's incredibly important. And this is the last thing I'll say about this. There's a professor at the University of Chicago, a psychology professor, who does this experiment with his students. They go out, they get on a bus, and the idea is in 3 questions, you are deep with another human being. So you sit down on the bus next to somebody, hey, how you doing? I'm fine, how are you? Question one. And I'm just making this up. Question two, what do you do for a living? I'm a doctor. Okay. Question three, have you always wanted to be a doctor? It doesn't matter what the answer is. They could say, no, I grew up on a farm and I wanted to be a veterinarian, but X, Y, and Z happened. Or my mother was a doctor, but she died of breast cancer at 40. So I'm honoring her memory by being a doctor. Whatever they say, now understand their why. And we don't go deep enough with people. Social media allows us to say on the surface, everything's great, everything's wonderful. Things aren't great. Things aren't wonderful all the time. And being deep with another human being, that in and of itself is that connection that we can gain from effective communication.
Oh, absolutely. And I thank you for laying that out there because I think what separates effective communication versus manipulation is the deception and the maliciousness behind it, the lying, those that intent of using whatever information that you get for your own advantage. And I think that's important for people to recognize and understand that somebody can have an effective conversation with you and be completely honest and open, and it may or may not hurt your feelings. That's something that we have to sit with and allow ourselves to experience. And we can't just avoid having hard conversations or just real conversations, because that's a real conversation. Just something simple of, oh, what do you do? And do you enjoy it? Is this something that you've always enjoyed, or is this something that you always wanted to pursue? That right there is something sincere. And if we can just allow ourselves to, like you said earlier, to tap into that sincerity, that empathy, and just trust ourselves when we are communicating with other people, then we will allow other people to trust us and trust others as well. And I think we have that misinterpretation within ourselves because we have that doubt, so we lose that trust. But I think gaining that in just our power of our words, I think is something that we can all embody. And I'm really glad that this is something that you're sharing with us, because man, this is truly something that so many people have a hard time is just communicating. You can, how many times have you heard it, on TV, media, all the time, like, oh, we broken up, our relationship ended because of failure of communicating. When you hear that on media and just out and about, what does your first thing that comes to mind?
See, I have a genuine curiosity, and that was one thing that we were taught as
Yeah.
negotiators. Be curious about other people.
Okay.
I have a genuine curiosity about people. I like to know your story. I like to know your why. If I meet somebody new, I don't usually ask them, what do you do for a living or whatever. My question will be, what do you love about what you do. And then I'll be
Mm,
quiet. And then they'll
yeah.
start, because again, that's another deep question. Why do you love being a podcast host? Why do you love being a police officer? Now you're getting to the emotional part of it. It's like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a cop. Oh, I'm a podcast host. Okay, where do you go from there? But if you ask
Yeah.
somebody an emotional question, what do you love about being an executive or being a CEO or being a DoorDash person? What do you love about that? It's like the floodgates open. And
Yeah.
and the other thing about it is we are narcissistic. We love talking about ourselves. And I used to do this with my wife. My wife is in the financial services industry. We'd go to the obligatory Christmas party at the end of the year. And
Okay.
I said, all right, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to find five of your colleagues. And I said, at
Okay.
the end of the night, I'm going to come out and I'm going to tell you, how they got into this line of work, where they went to college, how they met their spouse, where their kids go to school, what they do on vacation. I'm going to tell you everything about them.
Okay.
And then Monday morning, when you go to work, they're going to come to you and say, man, your husband's such a great guy. But they're not going to know one single thing about me because rarely do people, it's not a reciprocity thing where I ask you and you ask me. They just keep talking and I just keep asking a question and shutting up. And so we would go through this exercise. So what you just said about people being nervous about, I don't know how to talk to people or how do I get deep with people? Ask people about themselves and then be quiet. If you do that, I promise you, you'll have a billion friends. And even though you're shy, even though you're insecure, even though you're not sure you know what you're doing, by asking people about themselves, it'll come across to them as you are an amazing human being and I want to be friends with you.
Exactly. And you welcome into the room. You know what I mean? You can be already in the room, already invited, but if you are quiet, someone's going to notice you and someone's going to see, we need to bring that person out of that shell. And they're going to do whatever they're going to do to bring you out. And that is something that I realized. So it's like, I hate being approached sometimes. So I would be like, okay, let me go approach some people. You know what I mean? Let me find the people that are like me and they're in their shell and, let's talk. Let's figure out life together, and it ends up being the greatest time ever. So it's like sometimes we have to really step out of our shell and help other people step out of their shell too, because we're all want to be like little hermit crabs, pew, 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 just doing their own thing, but it's like not healthy for our soul, for our well-being, and just for life to process. It's really not. So I guess to ask you, Terry, if you could have any superpower, what would your superpower be? I know, so many
That's a great
options.
question. That is a great question. What would my superpower be? I guess I would say I wish I could love people more. I mean, we
Oh,
don't talk about love. I mean, especially guys. Guys don't talk about love. And I'm not talking about
yeah.
romantic love. I'm talking about spiritual love. In other words,
Yeah.
what does that mean? That means willing the good of the other. Mitzi, I want what's good for you. I want what's best for you. I want what you want. And I don't think we do that enough because, like I said, we're narcissistic. It's all about us. What can I get out of this? And you learn, especially I'm old. I've had a lot of behind me. And what I've learned is life is not about, the power, the money, the influence that you accumulate in this world. Life is important. Life is good when you when it's not about what you get, it's about what you give. So understand
Mm.
your unique gifts and talents and empty those gifts and talents out to other people. If you do that, I can promise you, you will be one of the richest people in the world.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is one thing I have been praying for, because I think spiritual love is such a beautiful thing to just have within yourself, and then to be able to just give that to somebody else too. I mean, it's a peaceful interaction. You know what I mean? Because it's a type of just love that, like, I don't care about anything. Whatever
Yeah,
that
it's
you're going
unconditional.
through. Yeah, it's literally, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care how you look like, what you are, what you've been through. If you are a human being and you are a whole, even if you're an animal, I will love you too. You know what I mean? Like, but if you are a human being, I will love you as you are, because you are who you are and you impact the world in such a way that nothing and nobody else can do but you. And because you are you, embrace all that you are. And it's like, ever since I started changing my mindset in that way, it's just like, I wish people could start seeing them, seeing themselves in the love that they already are, and they feel like they lack because they feel like the world or something else is going to fill that cup. But it's like, you don't realize that your cup is already full. You don't realize that, like, you are already full with love, full with compassion, full with all this joy, but you don't see it because you're so focused on everything else around you, everyone else around you, that you're trying to write your version of love or determine what your version of love is, whatever that TikTok tells you or whatever that somebody, some psychiatrist that's bigger at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's in you. You just have to recognize. It's like we have to just flip it. Like it's a mirror. Just look at yourself. You think it's see-through. You think you're seeing the world, but in reality, clear it off and it's like it's all you, sweetie, all you. And I think that would be the greatest superpower. Like, what would you do? Would you like touch somebody and be like, now you feel love? Or would it be like, I mean, how would you do that if you really could have that superpower?
I really think it's more about it's not about what I can get, and so many, you talk to me about, that sounds deceptive. Sound we didn't lie to people and stuff like that. So it's I don't want anything from you. I just want to give to you. I want you to be seen. I mean, I negotiated with, unfortunately, way too many people that wanted to end their life. And the reason they did, for the most part, was they didn't feel they were seen. They didn't feel
Yeah.
anybody saw them as human beings. And one of the things that I always recommended to people, people would say to me, well, yeah, the person was giving away their stuff and they were talking about death and they were talking, but I didn't want to ask them, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Because I thought I would put that into their minds. And I always used to tell people, and I'll tell people now, if you think somebody's going to harm themselves or kill themselves, flat out ask them. Look them right in the eye and say, are you going to hurt yourself? Because if they're not, they're going to say something like, no, Terry, you're an idiot. Why would you even say that? But
Yeah.
if they
It's like a
are,
wake-up call.
it is. It's like, oh my God, Terry sees me. I am seen now. Somebody see these problems that I think are so overwhelming and that I can't handle. Another person sees. And you might just prevent another person from taking their life if all you do is ask them, are you going to hurt yourself? Because I'm here.
Exactly.
And then people are like, well, what do I do if they say yes? Shut up and listen. Let them talk. Just let them talk. Let them get it out because you've
Yeah.
seen them as a human being.
Exactly. Don't shut them down. Don't dismiss whatever they have to say. Don't just be like, oh, it's hard. What can you do? Keep it going. Like, no. I mean, that I think if anything, like just listening and shutting up is the best thing that you can do because at least you can be like, listen, I may not know what to say at this moment because I don't have these issues that you are maybe going through, but I am willing to hear you out. I am willing to listen to you so that you know that you don't have to go through what you're going through by yourself. And if you like, you can step out of this cloud that you're in and come do things with me or just you know what I mean, just invite somebody in to your own life if you don't know what to say to somebody. And I think that's something that people are so scared of because like you said, we're so narcissistical that we are so self-centered that we forget that the world needs somebody just to listen. You know what I mean? I mean, come on, we're on a podcast. We're asking you to just listen. You know what I mean? All you really can do is just continue to listen and find somebody to listen to. So I think that is something that we all really can strive for, just have that spiritual love and just share it out. We don't even have to say anything. All we just gotta do is listen. It just oozes, boop, boop, boop. It's like a radar, it just oozes right out of us every time we just listen. And we just have to be that body, and not that's the reason why some people say it's easier to talk to a rock than and to talk to a wall than to talk to somebody else because somebody else is just trying to find certain words to change it or trying to find something in whatever that you're saying and not listening. So it's just like when we listen, we allow ourselves to step back out of us and actually hear what's being said. And I think that is very, very important. So thank you for that. And I have to ask you, because I know time is catching up to us and it's so sad, but what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
That's a great question. I'll leave you a quote. I mean, it's not quite on what we're talking about communication, but in a lot of ways, it sums up what we're talking about. It's a quote from a book called Farewell to Arms. It was written by Ernest Hemingway. And Hemingway was probably one of the greatest writers we've had in the 20th century. And this book is semi-autobiographical. It's about his time as an ambulance driver for the Italian army during World War I, but it's still a fiction book. And the quote in the book is this: "Life breaks everyone, and afterward, many are stronger at the broken places." And I mean, just that with that one sentence, life break or two sentences, life breaks everyone, and afterwards, many are stronger at the broken places. That for me is a metaphor for life. Life is going to beat you to your knees from time to time, but if you can keep moving, if you can get up and keep moving forward, eventually you will end up stronger at those places where life broke you. I know I found that to be true in my life, and I think it's something we could all maybe strive for in our lives.
Exactly. And that's not to get caught up in our weaknesses. We get so focused on the broken pieces of ourselves, not realizing how that is not really broken. It's like art. You know what I mean? It's like, have you seen those stained glass windows? Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful.
Yep.
And now there's these glasses that are fences, but they're literally just broken glass. All you gotta do is just tip it like tap it at a certain angle and it all just shatters, but it's still intact, very strong still. And it's like people don't realize like we are still so beautiful inside and out. We are so good. And that's why it's like if we start projecting that out instead of all the bad and the negativity that we feel, but it's not there. I call it imaginary feelings because they're not really real. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I'm now doing now because it's like, goodness, we have to realize like what's real is the truth that we are whole, that we are beautiful, we are loved, we are everything that is good in this world, and we can project that out into the world as well. So when we realize that that's imaginary feelings, like I don't have to feel that, or it's like if you realize that it keeps coming back, then confront it, confront those emotions, confront that anger, confront that frustration, confront and ask yourself and sit with your hard questions and realize like, huh, why do I feel like this? What is triggering me? And confront reason why, and then recognize, oh, it's coming from this. Oh, I forgive that part of me, or I forgive that person. And then you can let it go and then embody love again. And I think I wish, oh, and I hope people can take that with them and just continue on listening. Goodness. Anyways, goodness, we could just dive right into a whole new thing. Terry, it's a problem.
I love it, Mitzi. Come on, it's a good problem to have, right?
I know it is. It's a great problem to have. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to know more about Terry, because how could you not, right? How could you not? Please go check him out. I have his lovely websites on mine and on this attached to this podcast so that you can find all of the greatness that he has to offer the world. And he does have some great stuff to offer the world. He has motivational Mondays. He posts motivational quotes all the time. I mean, if you love my quotes that I post all the time, then you got to go check him out because I love his quotes because man, keep thinking is the goal. We have to keep thinking. So please go check him out so that we can all just continue on thinking. Bye.